recently, somebody who I think of as a new believer in Tiendo, sounds like a very sensitive person, very thoughtful person. Well, he was talking about how he might choose to leave his current residence and he might go to a homeless shelter. So he was asking for advice. So I started to pull on what my experience with Tiendo is on that. By the way, that's the way we pull in his mind, Do's mind, Tiendo's mind. It's all the same mind. By trying to think about what he would do, what they would do in this circumstance. Now, in any circumstance that you have. So, what I have to, because I had experience personally with him, I'm able to speak to that experience. And that's, because we were on the road twice without any money. First time in 75, 76, for about a year. And the second time in 94 for 9.5 months. Although we had money at the start, but we ran out. Anyway, so and there were in 75, I was alone for well, not alone. I was with the partner that Tiendo assigned me. Her name later became Dan Doty. She was Dandy at the time, and we were assigned to groups initially, but then those groups broke up in Chicago when the news broke on Walter Cronkite, and Tiendo felt like, you know, they were, everybody would recognize them, you know, as being who they were. So they were basically shot down, and because they were claimed to be criminals, because of the felony record that Doe ended up pleading to, because he had already served the 6 months, which came from a donated credit card of a new believer in them, and that they used to rent a car, and that was reported stolen, and then the car wasn't returned when it should have been, and that was reported, the car was reported stolen as well, and then the charges were dropped in both cases against T on the credit card and I think Doe on the car. But the DA picked it up in St. Louis, and all this arrest and everything happened as a result of renting a car in St. Louis with that credit card when the comet Kohoutek was at its perihelion to the Earth, and the comet Kohoutek, you can look it up in the net, was thought of to be a big deal. It was going to be a big deal. Not all comets are thought of as big deals. I mean, some people probably think of all comets as big deals, and I think rightfully so. There's a lot of evidence that comets are many times more than what we think. They might actually be spacecrafts that are living. Tiendo indicated that spacecrafts could be huge, and they could be actually living. In other words, grown on a vine to take a certain quality of mind that can drive it. It may take a very advanced being to pilot and navigate through the heavens on the power of the mind that they've accumulated. Because mind, remember, is synonymous with spirit, and is what fills the pocket, the soul pocket, and the human pocket. Some might call it a pocket, which is basically essentially the brain. I don't know if the human is actually a pocket or just an emanation, because I suspect it has to become a pocket only because of the quality of the mind that would expand and actually damage the human being pocket. And that's why Jesus talked about how you need a new wineskin. Because if you put new wine in an old wineskin, the wineskin won't be able to handle it. It'll burst. And that's actually what happened to tea. Doe called it burned out. The cells started to mutate because they had too much power. It's like a wire that's got too much power going through it, and it starts to corrode the outside. It starts to turn black, and it starts to then deteriorate until there's no wire anymore. And that causes a short circuit. So that part of the body is not getting. And where did it start in tea? In her eye. Somewhere in the vicinity of her eye. And she had made her eye single. I have no doubt of that. Of that vehicle. She made that vehicle's eye single. That's the job we have, is to take control over our vehicle and become basically, actually literally to want to be an instrument, and you could say a robot, for next level mind. Not for human mind. That's where the Luciferians come in. They want you to become a robot for their mind, but they don't tell you that. They tell you that you're going to be an individual, more of an individual, by entertaining their thoughts. More original, more creative. By getting away from that straight and narrow. But that's a challenge that's presented to us by the next level that brings in the Luciferian types, the Luciferian human equivalents, because they haven't overcome their humanness, or they would have been in the keeping of Tea and Doe, but they chose to change, to not, or to never really fully adapt or adopt all those things to what the requirements were to become a member, which meant giving your all. You have to give your mind, body, and soul, and strength, your efforts, all. Okay? But that doesn't mean that you don't get something for believing, because believing starts out as belief and then it becomes trust. And trust also entails faith. Faith is our reaction to trusting what the next level will present us with and how they will help us. So Christians that are afraid to listen to things about Tea and Doe are afraid because the Luciferians don't want them to hear it. Not because the information is going to sway them. It's absolutely going to sway them if they pay attention to it. It's going to sway them. It's going to open their eyes, and they're going to see more than they ever saw before, and they're going to be rejected by many people. Not everybody. Because that's what we need to experience in order to break away, literally, from by severing the human umbilical cord. Tiendo said that humans were plants, the same as animals are plants, the same as plants that we think of as, trees and grass are plants, and that you just can't see the umbilical cord that connects them with their root system, with their tree. So anyway, while on the road, when we got split up, we were split up in groups, but those groups then just fell apart because of, well, at the Berkeley meeting is where my group split apart in late 75. Actually, it was October 31st, 75, because it was publicized that we were going to have a meeting on Halloween at this bookstore. And so a bunch of us went to that bookstore because we heard about that through the grapevine somehow. I don't know how, but we did have a little bit of a communication with Tiendo. So maybe that's, I wasn't told everything at those times, because I was joining an existing structure that was barely existing. But and I was never told everything. By no means is a student informed about everything that's going through the teacher's heads. So then I ended up selling the flute that I brought with me, which I think I tried to play once and I didn't have any air for it. I used to have like nightmares that I was trying. There were nightmares because I was trying to play the flute for people, and I couldn't get it out. When I would blow, nothing would come out. I didn't have enough air to make the sound come out. Maybe that happens from celibacy. Anyway, I advised this person to try to be celibate. Just decide if they're going to try to do it. When they're confronted, they're going to ask Tiendo to help them. Help me have the strength to fight this off. Not because it's wrong for humans, it's not wrong for humans, but if you're going to break away from the human kingdom, you have to break away from their reproductive mechanism. And all the energy that goes into that, which is enormous. But then you can't just take that energy and then get a big head about it. I mean, you can, and people do, and think of yourself as special because you dominated that beast within you, that animal. Basically, it's animal, it's mammalian behavior. Perennial mammalians. They come back again as leaves on the tree. Those are all words that were given to us by Tiendo. Like mammon, it's interesting that the term mammon in English came from mammonas, and I have to believe that that has some roots in mammary glands, which is a mammal characteristic. And that basically worshipping mammalians is what becomes our master. Or we make our master. And Jesus said you can only have two masters. One of two masters. You can only have the kingdom of God, the Father, the Son, and the mind that flows through them, and the chain of mind that goes up to the chief. I don't know through how many older members, how many chiefs. But Tiendo called it the chief of chiefs. So we don't know know how many chiefs there are, and then, you know, what... So, I mean, you know... So put this into theoretical and say that since we can't prove how it all started, that means everything we say is about the kingdom of God is the beings that are above human, way beyond human, but they're not space aliens. Although they exist in space, they are not bound to any planet, and they do not make their home on any planet, although their home is wherever they are